Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, as Trump finalises his trade war plans, it's worth reflecting on two lessons which we really need as many people as possible to learn. The first is that populists with easy answers will always fail to deliver. Trump's tariffs are not working as he thought they would. It's as simple as that. And second, that Brexit, another simple populist solution, did not even give us the relatively pathetic bonus of dodging Trump's tariffs. We didn't even get that crumb of comfort. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So the UK government tried to avoid Trump's tariffs with a combination of separation from the EU, the promise of a tech-based trade deal, which would benefit his tech bros, the argument that our balance of trade is not in the UK's favour, and the fact we buy quite a bit of US military equipment. However, it is not to be. The Tories are now claiming that Labour failed to protect us from these tariffs. However, a couple of things to say about that. First, such a statement can only be made by characterising Trump as a predator, a threat to our economy. Is that what they're saying now? Because I thought they regarded Trump as a friend, you see. You don't need protecting from friends. Second thing to point out is that it was supposed to be Brexit that protected us from these tariffs. It has not. And as I've said before, although we may be forced into retaliatory tariffs of some kind, or may not, we don't know, we are unlikely to make them sting. We're facing a really bad situation now. Trump may well have to back down on his trade war. Retaliation from Canada, China, EU and so on may force him into much weaker tariffs. He's going to have to face economic gravity at some point. He will keep some in place, however, so as to avoid losing face. He can't cancel it completely because then he'd look like a fool. But he may have to dial them right down. But when this happens, if it happens, it doesn't follow that his climb down will be evenly spread throughout the world. We might conceivably find ourselves in a situation whereby the tariffs remaining on the UK are left higher than the EU because the UK's action against Trump doesn't sting. The EU's action against Trump will sting like hell. Remember, when Trump hit us with tariffs during his first term, see, by the time Biden came to power, we were no longer EU members, so we were treated differently. And although Biden did drop the tariffs again for both the EU and the UK, he did it for the EU first. We still had to put up with those tariffs for quite a while afterward. That is because he wanted to get rid of the EU retaliatory tariffs as soon as possible. We were less important. The same may happen now. But I also want to make another really important point. Just as it was never mathematically possible for us to replace lost Brexit trade with better trade with other countries, because these other countries just don't have enough money. Europe's very rich. So it is also the case that there could never be a Brexit benefit in this trade war. Even if we had completely dodged Trump's tariffs and he hit the EU hard, people would describe that as a Brexit benefit, wouldn't it? Wouldn't be true. It would be true that we couldn't have dodged those tariffs from inside the EU. Of course it's true. That is absolutely the case. So why wouldn't I describe that as a Brexit benefit then? Well, because we'd be better off inside the EU with full Trump tariffs than outside with no Trump tariffs. And it's quite easy to demonstrate. The Office of Budgetary Responsibility, this is the group of economists who have to vet our budgets. These are the people who get to say to Rachel Reeves, no, that budget's not good enough, go back and do it again. So their forecasts determine whether or not Rachel Reeves has balanced her books. And they, along with other analysts, not just them, say that we have lost £100 billion each year in productivity because of the extreme Tory Brexit. They don't call it that, but Brexit. The latest trade figures show that we exported a total of £60 billion in a year to the USA in terms of goods, right? So let's say that Trump hit us with tariffs so severe, so mind-blowingly severe that we literally lost all of our trading goods. We couldn't export not a single physical product could be exported from the UK to the USA because it would be too expensive. No one would buy it in America, which is not realistic, because those levels of trade barriers would force even Republicans to find a spine and stop Trump. But let us just say, hypothetically, that the tariffs were so massive, we couldn't be competitive with a single product in the American market, and all of our export of goods ended to them. That is still £40 billion a year less damaging than Brexit has been. And in reality, Trump's heaviest tariffs will not actually wipe out all exports. Some of those things, for example, supercars and so on, American customers will go, oh, expensive, but I want a McLaren, so I'll pay extra anyway, right? So the hard Brexit is actually way more damaging than even the most extreme Trump tariffs realistically will be. So it was never even mathematically possible to get a Brexit benefit here. It would be better to be inside the EU and sell nothing to America than to be outside and not affected by any of his trade war. Only it's worse than that. We are being affected. The Labour government have admitted, yep, they've tried, but their efforts to dodge the incoming tariffs has not succeeded. The trade deal being discussed, they say, might trigger some concessions later on when it's agreed, but it's not agreed yet. In the here and now, when Trump announces his tariffs this week, we are on the list, which is in line with what Trump himself has said. He said that every country is going to be affected. And this simple exercise of comparing the annual loss to the UK economy of Brexit, widely reported, and the maximum hypothetical possible loss from Trump's tariffs shows us two things really very clearly. The first is that, as I say, Trump's tariffs cannot possibly be as damaging as Brexit, even theoretically. So we would be much better off right now being in the EU, even if that meant taking the full tariffs in the face. But second, and this is what I want people to take from this, media outlets are losing their freaking minds over the potential impact of these Trump tariffs. The government have gone out of their way to engage with Trump, not just to shore up support for Ukraine, but to protect our own exports with them. Basically, these tariffs are considered a big deal across the political spectrum, across news outlets, and yet, although we don't yet know the impact because we don't know the details, we know for absolute certain that the impact of Trump's tariffs, which everyone's losing their mind over, cannot possibly be as severe as the impact of Brexit. It's mathematically impossible, as I've shown. So if people are losing their minds over these tariffs, why aren't they losing their minds over the damage Brexit has already caused and has been causing for multiple years? And we have more agency as a country over mitigating the damage of Brexit by reversing it. We can try to persuade Trump that he's only stabbing himself in the ghoulies with his trade war, but that obviously hasn't worked out too well so far. But we ultimately have no agency to stop Trump applying these tariffs. We do have agency over lowering Brexit trade barriers because we know the EU are up for that as well. That is the lesson people should be taking from this. Brexit did not protect us. It could never protect us. It was impossible. But as bad as these tariffs are going to be, they are nowhere near as bad as Brexit already demonstrably is. If we want to lose our minds about something, maybe it should be the more damaging economic decision that we made ourselves, and we have the ability to make a different decision. And by we, I mean the country. So make this point to as many people as will listen to it. You cannot seriously complain about the impact of Trump's tariffs without being even more upset at the impact of our own Brexit. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.